strong message that the words of those senior level Planned Parenthood leaders that are captured on camera, these are not just the actions or the opinions of, of a rogue employee or a rogue staff or an isolated incident, but these people were accurately represented what the real policy and attitude of Planned Parenthood is from the top level on down. So let them embrace them and let them be taken down by it because that's the criminal policy of Planned Parenthood nationwide. That's what that reveals. That means a lot. Definitely. I've heard from lots of local people in El Dorado County and in Placerville that they were absolutely shocked and horrified to know that a company like Sun Express was operating in their beautiful little downtown district, and that it had a huge. The protests had and are having a huge impact on law enforcement, on local government, on everyone there. So I think that's very important to keep the pressure on right there locally in Placerville. That's very, very important. So thank you for that.
David isn't going to say this, but I will for him. Somebody asked, what can you do? What can we do? We can send money to the CMP to help pay for the legal costs for this young man so that he won't go under.
Yeah.
We really need to do that.
That's very generous, thank you. And I will just say as my commitment to you, I am not a normal defendant in a lawsuit. My lawyers will tell you I'm a highly litigious person. I feed on the energy of the courtroom. I should have been a lawyer in a different life probably. So if you do choose to donate to the Legal Defense Fund out of CMP or the pro bono organizations that are helping us out, like Legal Defense Fund, like Legal Defense Foundation, the Thomas More Society, and also the Freedom Conscience Defense Fund, any of those, anything that you contribute to that, to our legal effort, I promise you, we're never going to settle with Planned Parenthood or Sun Express or the abortion industry. We're going to take it all the way into the courtroom, and it's going to be the biggest mistake they've ever made bringing these lawsuits, because it will bring the entire business to the courtroom. This is exactly where it belongs. Yeah, so the question is, what was it like the day that my house was raided by Kamala Harris's agents? And it started out a day like any other. Except like it was 1984. I was making lunch. It was just a regular day. I had some chicken that I was getting ready to garlic and onions ready to put in the oven. And I had to take the garbage out from my kitchen trash, so I walked out to the parking lot, threw it in the dumpster, started to turn back around the corner to come back inside, and there was this big white unmarked van sitting in the parking lot, and right as I round the corner, the door opens up and a big guy in uniform steps out and he says, "Are you David?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I'm with the California Department of Justice. We have a warrant to search your home." Here we go, right? But it was not as big of a surprise to me as the ridiculous, frivolous, politically motivated indictments out in Houston, which we have a very good motion to dismiss of those that we posted on our website. You guys can view that at cmp.org. That was probably the biggest surprise to me back in January when that happened. I was ready for I don't know that anybody ever nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, right? Nobody expects the DOJ to show up at their house. But I wasn't surprised that it had gotten to this point. I was surprised at the timing. I was surprised that they really decided to pull the trigger and do it. But I was ready for it. And at this point, I'm really ready for whatever they throw at us next.
That's right.
That's a very good question. The question was how you felt about the media tactics, and especially in regards to Cecile Richards, the way they interview me versus the way they interview her. And so it's a really good question, and it's been really interesting and enlightening for me to observe a lot of the media tactics and interactions and coverage over the past 9 months now. You know, when it started out, I was actually pretty pleased with the way that even the mainstream media was engaging with the controversy and engaging with the videos and engaging with the issue for probably the first 4 weeks or so. And then after about the first 4 weeks, there was a very noticeable change where I think Planned Parenthood finally kind of realized how dangerous this was going to be together and kind of worked through a lot of their internal crisis operations and started really communicating with their friends and their allies in the elite mainstream media. And then after 4 weeks, I noticed a very clear shift in the direction that a lot of the coverage was taking, and it started to be more difficult to get mainstream to cover the videos. There started to be a lot more credence given to some of the Planned Parenthood talking points, and especially in regards to the double standard with the way that they would that I'll be interviewed sometimes, the way Cecile Richards will be interviewed. I've noticed consistently, and this is probably really in general, I don't complain about things, and I don't have a lot of complaints, but this is probably the biggest one that I notice, is that whenever I'll say something or give a talking point or make a point, I'm always expected to back it up with another piece of evidence, another three or four pieces of evidence to back it up. Whereas when Planned Parenthood gives one of their talking points, i.e. to say that, you know, we weren't being paid for body parts, we were just being reimbursed for shipping. They can get up on TV and say that talking point, and no one will call them on it, no one will ask them to back it up. And to this day, for 9 months now, even though Planned Parenthood has changed their story 4 or 5 times about what those payments per specimen, per body part, were actually for, even though they've changed that story 4 or 5 times now, no one has asked them to, and they have not produced any actual proof that the money they were getting for body parts that's labeled on the invoices as money for baby parts was for anything other than money for baby parts to make a profit. And so that's probably the biggest double standard that I've noticed in the media coverage of this issue for 9 months is the level of documentation that I am asked to produce compared to zero documentation, zero evidence, zero proof that Planned Parenthood is asked to produce for their defenses and for their talking points. Really good question from Lynette. How did I prepare myself spiritually to go into these places and go into those conditions? And it's a really big question, and I think that I probably can't give the whole answer just right here, but in microcosm, there's just a couple of things. Number one, it's true that some of the people that I was meeting with and that I and the other investigators would meet with are doing things that are absolutely monstrous. We listen to the senior directors of Planned Parenthood talk about the way that they'll crush one part of the baby or not crush another so they can get an intact body part for sale. We listen to them talking about using a less crunchy technique in order to get the fetus out completely intact. You listen to somebody like Kate Dyer, who's the CEO of Sun Express, who used to work in this clinic sometimes as a procurement technician, talking about laughing about keeping the baby's eyes closed when they're shipping them in powdered severed head so that nobody freaks out when they open the box. These deeds are absolutely monstrous. But you have to still find something about that person when you're interacting with them that is still human and that you can still relate to have that conversation. So that was something that was definitely a big component of our undercover work and the acting that went into it. One of the priests that I see often told me at the very beginning of the project I was really concerned about some of the spiritual warfare aspect of it, and he basically said that we needed to pray three things going into these situations. Number one, pray for forgiveness for the enemy. Number two, pray for any curses to be turned into blessings. And number three, pray for those to return 3 times and come asunder. And that was our constant prayer day in and day out every time that we were doing a major cover operation. And I think the fruits are evident for what we see. So it's a very, very powerful prayer. I encourage all of you to use that in any kind of situation. where you're facing very, very spiritual people. It's not a secret around here. I used to go to St. Stephen, the First Florida Parish, when I lived up in Sacramento, by the excellent fraternity of St. Peter. Could not have done this work without the spirituality of the Old Mass, without the protection of Our Lady, and also the pastoral teaching of the Holy Father Pope Francis. Those three things have probably been the spiritual focus. The three prayers, the first one was pray for forgiveness for enemies. Number 2, for all curses to be turned into blessings. And number 3, for those to return upon the sender 3 times. Return upon the sender. Scariest moment. That's a fun question I get sometimes. What was the scariest moment undercover? Was there a time when you thought your cover was going to be blown? And I will always remember I'll always remember a lot of things that happened. But I'll especially always remember the business lunch meeting that Sandra Merritt and I had with Dr. Mary Gatter, who is or who at least for the past year was the president of Planned Parenthood's Medical Directors Council, which is their internal, one of their internal committees of all of the medical director of each Planned Parenthood affiliate is basically the top abortion doctor at that Planned Parenthood affiliate. They're responsible for overseeing all of the clinical operations in that affiliate. And so Mary Gatter, for the past year, was the president of the Medical Directors Council of all of them within Planned Parenthood National. And so she's the one who wanted a Lamborghini. And the the old lady from Pasadena who wanted a Lamborghini. And I'll always remember the business lunch meeting that we had with her. We sat down with her. We thought she was going to be a very quiet little old lady, kind of cute, maybe not all there. And we sit down to lunch with her, and she's immediately rapid fire. Who are you? Where do you come from? How long have you been doing this? What do you do? Very business-like, very really aggressive questioning almost. And I was kind of worried the whole time. I thought, wow, is she on to us? Did something go wrong? Did she mess up in something we said? And so I was really nervous walking out of that meeting. I wasn't sure if we were going to have to drop a video on YouTube the next day that it was about to all come out, that was going to be the end of it. And it turns out that's just her personality. That's just how she is. She starts out, she's super aggressive, super ornery with you. And then the next time I saw her at a Planned Parenthood conference, a couple of months later, she was perfectly gregarious, happy to see me, gave me a big hug, joked with me. So, anyway, so some people that's just their personality. But I'll always remember that about Dr. Gatter. Good question. How do we prepare ourselves for a lot of the technical language of both abortion practice in the clinic and also of stem cell research and the whole baby parts industry? And it was like learning a language. I took German and Latin concurrently for 6 years when I was in school, and I studied Arabic for a couple of years and a couple of semesters in college. So my approach to undercover work, some people approach it like acting. I approach it much more like learning a language. And learning the language of the people who you're going to be interacting with undercover. So really, we had vocabulary lists, we had flashcards that we studied, and that was the way that we prepared. We learned the language of abortion, we learned the language of the abortion industry. And it's almost like a secret code that we have in some ways. You learn that, and it's almost like having the secret handshake or the magic password, and that unlocks all kinds of doors to you if you just know the culture and know the language. Growing up in Davis, California certainly helps as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really good question. For the undercover site visits at the 2 plants, the one in Denver, Colorado, and the other in